The GoPro footage showed everything in perfect clarity. Noah Blaine sat in his Ford pickup outside Malden Hardware, watching his wife Camille writhe on the motel bed, her face twisted in agony as she clawed at her eyes. Victor Letts, the mechanic she'd been screwing for 6 months, rolled undressed on the floor beside her, both of them screaming about burning, about poison, about calling 911. Noah's expression never changed. He clicked the laptop shut and started the engine. The pepper spray powder had worked exactly as planned. 3 days earlier, Noah had been installing new deadbolts for the Hendersons on Maple Street when his phone buzzed. Camille's text read, "Working late again, don't wait up." It was the fourth time this week. She'd been pulling away for months now, cold shoulders in bed, sudden secrecy with her phone, weekend nursing conferences that never appeared on any hospital schedule. Noah had married Camille 17 years ago when she was fresh out of nursing school, and he was managing the hardware store's inventory. She'd loved his steady nature then, his reliable paycheck, the way he could fix anything that broke. Now she looked at him like he was something that needed replacing. He'd suspected for weeks. The confirmation came when he found her laptop open Tuesday morning, Gmail still logged in. The email chain with V stretched back 4 months. Hotel reservations, photos, messages that made Noah's stomach turn. "Can't wait to feel you inside me again. Tell your boring husband you're working overtime. This weekend at the Riverside Inn, room 237. Noah had memorized every word. That afternoon, he'd driven to Radio Shack in Cambridge and bought the smallest camera he could find. The sales kid, maybe 19 with green hair, had explained how the wireless streaming worked. "Pretty cool spy setup, dude. Watching your teenage daughter or something?" "Something like that," Noah had replied. The pepper spray came from his own store, industrial-grade capsaicin powder, the kind they sold to restaurant suppliers for making hot sauce. He'd mixed it with talcum powder until the ratio seemed right, then sealed it in a small plastic baggie. Friday evening, Camille packed her overnight bag for another conference. Noah watched from the kitchen doorway as she folded her black lingerie, the set he'd bought her for Christmas that she'd never worn for him. "Drive safe," he said when she kissed his cheek goodbye. "I will. Love you." The lie came so easily. After her Civic pulled out of the driveway, Noah called his son Jonah downstairs. The 15-year-old looked like a younger, darker-haired version of Noah with the same serious brown eyes. "Mom's working this weekend," Noah said. "Want to order pizza and watch that new action movie?" "Sure, Dad." Jonah paused. "Everything okay? You seem different lately." Noah forced a smile. "Just tired from work. Go ahead and pick the movie." While Jonah scrolled through Netflix, Noah slipped into the master bedroom. Camille's dresser drawer sat slightly open. He found what he was looking for in the back corner, wrapped in a silk bag, the vibrator she'd bought online 3 months ago. Noah had seen the Amazon charge on their joint credit card. His hands moved with the same precision he used for mixing paint at the store. He unscrewed the battery compartment, dusted the interior with his pepper powder mixture, and reassembled everything. Then he tucked the device back into Camille's weekend bag, already packed and waiting by the front door. The GoPro took longer to position. The Riverside Inn was a rundown place off I-93, the kind of motel that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Noah had driven there Thursday night to scout the location. Room 237 was on the second floor, facing the parking lot. The air conditioning unit was old and loose, with a gap just wide enough for the camera's lens. Noah waited until the desk clerk stepped away to smoke, then climbed the exterior stairs like he belonged there. The camera fit perfectly behind the vent grate, nearly invisible unless you knew where to look. The wireless connection showed 5 bars of signal strength. Now, watching the chaos unfold on his laptop screen, Noah felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Camille and Victor had discovered the burning powder 20 minutes into their session. Both were rubbing their eyes, their faces bright red and swollen. Victor kept shouting about being poisoned, about calling the police. "It's everywhere," Camille screamed, stumbling toward the bathroom. "God, it burns. Call 911-inch." The emergency responders arrived 12 minutes later. Noah counted 4 EMTs, 2 police cars, and a fire truck. Through the camera's audio, he could hear Camille trying to explain what happened, her voice hoarse and panicked. "I don't know. I was just..." And then everything started burning. Officer Martinez, according to his name badge, took notes while the EMTs flushed their eyes with saline. "Ma'am, can you think of anyone who might want to hurt you? Any enemies? Angry patients from the hospital?" "No," Camille's voice cracked. "Nobody would do this. It has to be some kind of accident." Victor said less, mainly because his throat was too swollen to speak clearly. Noah watched him gesture wildly at the EMTs, pointing at his lap and making faces that would have been comical under different circumstances. They were both loaded into ambulances by 10:30 p.m. Noah closed the laptop and went upstairs to check on Jonah, who had fallen asleep during the second movie. His son looked peaceful, unaware that his family was disintegrating 20 miles away. Saturday morning brought a text from Camille. Food poisoning, coming home Sunday, don't call. Noah showed the message to Jonah over breakfast. Your mom's sick. We'll pick her up some soup and crackers for when she gets back. Is she okay? Jonah asked, looking genuinely concerned. She'll be fine, just needs to rest. The hardware store was busy that weekend, with spring finally arriving and homeowners starting their annual repair projects. Noah helped customers choose paint colors, explained the difference between deck screws and wood screws, and cut keys with his usual competence. Nobody noticed that his smiles never reached his eyes. Sunday evening, Camille's Civic pulled into the driveway at 6:47 p.m. Noah watched from the kitchen window as she sat in the car for several minutes, probably checking her reflection in the mirror. When she finally came inside, her face was still slightly puffy, with patches of irritated skin around her eyes and mouth. Jesus, honey, you look awful, Noah said, meeting her at the door. How are you feeling? Terrible. Camille's voice was hoarse. Worst food poisoning I've ever had. The whole conference got sick. They think it was the hotel catering. That's horrible. Did you see a doctor? The hotel called EMTs for everyone. They said it would pass in a few days. She avoided his eyes. I just want to shower and sleep. Of course. I'll heat up some chicken broth. Noah watched her climb the stairs, noting how she favored her left side slightly. The pepper spray had done more damage than he'd expected. Good. Over the next 3 days, he played the concerned husband perfectly. Brought her tea and toast, rubbed her shoulders when she complained of muscle aches, called the hospital to let them know she'd need a few sick days. He even picked up her prescription when she went to urgent care for antihistamines. The doctor said it was definitely food poisoning, Camille told him Wednesday night. Some kind of contaminated shellfish. Really aggressive stuff. I'm just glad you're okay, Noah replied, stroking her hair. I was so worried. That night, while Camille slept beside him, Noah transferred the motel footage to his laptop and began editing. He cut out the initial setup, focusing on the moment when the burning started. The audio was clear enough to understand what they'd been doing before everything went wrong. The final video was 18 minutes long. Noah saved 3 copies, one on his laptop, one on a flash drive, and one uploaded to a secure cloud account he'd created under a fake name. Thursday morning, he Googled Victor Let's Auto Repair and found Eastside Motors on Washington Street. The shop's website featured photos of Victor working on engines, looking confident and professional. Noah studied the man who'd been screwing his wife. Tall, muscular from years of physical work, with graying hair and calloused hands. Handsome in a rough way that Noah supposed some women found attractive. Victor was married too. His wife Hannah appeared in several photos on the shop's Facebook page, a striking woman with auburn hair and intelligent eyes. Noah wondered if she knew about her husband's extracurricular activities. Friday evening, Noah created an anonymous email account and sent Hannah Letts a simple message. Your husband is cheating on you. Video proof attached. I'm sorry. He included a shortened version of the motel footage, edited to show Victor's face clearly, but cutting out the pepper spray aftermath. Just Victor and Camille together, intimate and obvious. The email sent at 11:47 p.m. Saturday morning, Noah's phone rang while he was restocking the store's nail bins. Blaine Hardware, this is Noah. You fool! The voice was female, harsh with tears. You sick, twisted fool! I'm sorry, who is this? Hannah Letts. I know what you did. I know you sent that video. Noah's grip tightened on the phone. He hadn't expected her to call so soon, or to figure out who sent it. Mrs. Letts, I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the crap. The email came from a fake account, but the video was taken from inside that motel room. You were there. You watched them. Her voice cracked. You watched your wife screw my husband, and you recorded it. Noah glanced around the store. 2 customers were browsing the gardening section, and his part-time employee, Marcus, was helping someone with lumber. He stepped into the back office and closed the door. Even if that were true, Noah said carefully, what makes you think I'd admit it to a stranger? Because we both got screwed over by the same 2 people. Because I've been crying for 12 hours and I need to know if what I saw was real. There was something raw in her voice that made Noah pause. He'd expected anger, maybe threats to call the police. Instead, Hannah Letts sounded broken. "It's real," he said finally. The silence stretched for several seconds. "How long have you known?" Hannah asked. "A few weeks. You?" "I suspected for months. Victor's been different, distracted. Coming home late with bullcrap excuses about working on cars?" She laughed bitterly. "I thought I was going crazy. Then I saw that video and everything made sense. What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Divorce him, I guess. Take half his precious shop." Another pause. "What about you?" Noah looked through the office window at the hardware store he'd managed for 15 years. The steady job that Camille now found so boring, the simple life she'd grown to resent. "I'm still deciding," he said. "Well, when you do decide, you should know that Victor's not just cheating with your wife. There's a girl at the shop, too. Kelly, maybe 19 years old. Blonde, works the front desk on weekends." The information hit Noah like a physical blow. "How do you know?" "I hired a private investigator 3 months ago. Got photos, credit card records, the whole thing." "Victor's been busy." Hannah's voice turned hard. "I was going to file for divorce next week, but your video changes things." "How?" "Because now I have leverage. Video evidence of infidelity, plus proof he's been screwing around with an employee who's barely legal. That's sexual maltreatment at minimum. Maybe worse if she's been coerced." Noah felt something shift inside him, like a gear clicking into a new position. "You want to hurt them." "I want to destroy them," Hannah said without hesitation. "Victor thinks he's so clever, so untouchable. Your wife thinks she can just waltz into my marriage and take what she wants. They both need to learn that actions have consequences." "What did you have in mind?" "Meet me somewhere. Tonight. We need to talk face to face." They agreed on a diner in Medford, halfway between their homes. Noah told Camille he was meeting an old army buddy for dinner. She barely looked up from her phone when he left. The Sunrise Diner was nearly empty at 8 p.m. on a Saturday. Noah spotted Hannah immediately. She looked older than in the Facebook photos, with worry lines around her eyes and a brittle quality that spoke of recent sleepless nights. She'd chosen a corner booth and was nursing a cup of coffee that had clearly gone cold. "Noah?" she asked when he approached. "That's me." He slid into the opposite seat. "Thank you for coming." Up close, Hannah was prettier than her photos suggested, despite the obvious stress. She had the kind of strong features that aged well, with intelligent green eyes that reminded Noah of someone, though he couldn't place who. I keep thinking about that video," she said without preamble. "The way they looked at each other, like they were in love or something. They're not in love. They're just selfish." "How can you be so calm about this? If I saw my husband with another woman the way you saw your wife..." She shook her head. "I'd have eliminated them both. Maybe I'm still processing it." The waitress came by to take Noah's order. He asked for coffee and a slice of apple pie, not because he was hungry, but because he needed time to think. Hannah watched him carefully, trying to read his expression. "You're not what I expected," she said finally. "What did you expect?" "Someone angrier, more broken, I guess. Your wife humiliated you, and you seem like you're discussing the weather." Noah stirred sugar into his coffee, considering how much to reveal. "I grew up in a house where getting angry didn't solve anything. My father used to say that revenge is a dish best served cold." "So you are planning revenge?" "I'm planning justice. There's a difference." Hannah leaned forward. "Tell me." For the next hour, they compared notes like war correspondents sharing intelligence. Hannah had been documenting Victor's behavior for months. Unexplained absences, mysterious phone calls, changes in their intimate life. The private investigator had provided photos of Victor with the young desk clerk, plus financial records showing payments to various motels and restaurants. "He's been spending our money on his affairs," Hannah said, sliding a manila folder across the table. $3,000 in the last 6 months just on hotel rooms and dinners for other women. Noah flipped through the documentation. Credit card statements, bank records, even receipts from lingerie stores. Victor had bought expensive gifts for his girlfriends while Hannah wore the same clothes she'd owned for years. "This is good," Noah said, "really good, but it's not enough." "What do you mean?" "Your husband and my wife hurt us, but they're not really suffering. Victor still has his business, your marriage, his reputation. Camille still has her job, our house, our son's respect. They had their fun and they got a little scare with the pepper spray, but their lives are basically unchanged." Hannah stared at him. "You did that? The pepper spray?" Noah nodded. They thought it was food poisoning. Jesus Christ. She was quiet for a long moment. That's actually brilliant. It was just the beginning. What else are you planning? Noah pulled out his phone and showed her a series of screenshots. I've been documenting everything. Every lie Camille tells, every late night, every time she uses our joint credit card for Victor. I've also been looking into their backgrounds, their jobs, their friends. Looking for what? Pressure points. Ways to apply maximum damage with minimum risk. He swiped to another screenshot. Did you know your husband has been skipping tax payments on his business? He owes the IRS over $40,000. Hannah's eyes widened. No, he handles all the shop finances. There's more. His business license expired last month and he hasn't renewed it. He's been operating illegally for 4 weeks. How did you find this out? Public records. You'd be amazed what information is available if you know where to look. Noah put his phone away. The question is, what do we do with it? They talked until the diner started closing down around them. By the time they parted ways in the parking lot, they had the outline of a plan that would systematically dismantle both Victor's business and Camille's career. Are you sure about this? Hannah asked as they stood beside their cars. Once we start, there's no going back. They started this, Noah replied. We're just going to finish it. The first phase began Monday morning. Noah arrived at work early and used the store's computer to create several more anonymous email accounts. The first message went to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, detailing Victor's unpaid taxes and providing his business address. The second went to the state licensing board, reporting that East Side Motors was operating without proper permits. The third email was more personal. It went to Kelly Morrison, the 19-year-old desk clerk at Victor's shop, from an account pretending to be a concerned friend. The message included photos of Victor with Camille at various hotels, along with a warning that he was using Kelly as a cover for other affairs. Noah sent that one at 9:15 a.m., right when he knew Kelly would be opening the shop for the day. His phone rang 20 minutes later. You're really doing this, Hannah said. Her voice carried a mixture of admiration and fear. We're doing this, Noah corrected. Your turn. Hannah's part was more complex. She had to extract financial records from their home computer, photograph important business documents, and plant seeds of suspicion among Victor's customers. Her background in accounting made her perfect for the job. I found something else, she told Noah during their second meeting, this time at a bar in Somerville. Victor's been claiming Kelly as a business expense, paying her cash under the table to avoid payroll taxes. That's tax evasion and labor law violations. It gets better. She's not the first young employee he's had a relationship with. There was another girl 2 years ago, Sarah something. She quit suddenly, and Victor paid her a lump sum that he listed as equipment costs. Noah felt that familiar cold satisfaction settling in his chest. Sounds like hush money. That's what I thought. I tracked down Sarah's address. She's working at a Starbucks in Cambridge now. Want to take a drive? Sarah Martinez turned out to be a soft-spoken 22-year-old with nervous eyes and a story that made Noah's hands clench into fists. She'd worked at East Side Motors straight out of high school, excited to learn about cars and earn money for college. Victor had been charming at first, offering her overtime hours and mentoring her on automotive repair. It started small, Sarah told them, sitting in Noah's truck outside the Starbucks where she now worked. Compliments about my appearance, little gifts, asking about my personal life. I thought he was just being nice. When did it change? Hannah asked gently. About 3 months in. He started staying late when it was just us, finding excuses to stand close to me, making comments about my body. Sarah's voice got smaller. Then one night he cornered me in the parts room and he didn't force me exactly, but he made it clear that my job depended on keeping him happy. How long did it go on? Noah asked. Almost a year. I kept thinking I could handle it, that I needed the money for school. But then he started getting more aggressive, wanting to meet outside of work, talking about leaving his wife. Sarah wiped her eyes. When I finally said no, he fired me the next day. Then he called me and offered $5,000 to sign a paper saying I quit voluntarily. Did you sign it? Hannah asked. I was 19 and scared. Of course I signed it. Noah and Hannah exchanged glances. This was bigger than infidelity. This was systematic sexual maltreatment, possibly attack, backed up by financial coercion. Sarah, Noah said carefully, would you be willing to talk to a lawyer about this? I don't have money for a lawyer. You wouldn't need money. Sexual maltreatment cases like this often work on contingency. The lawyer only gets paid if you win. Sarah considered this for a long moment. What about my job? I can't afford to lose another job because of Victor Letts. Your current boss doesn't need to know anything until you're ready, Hannah said. And if a lawyer takes your case, they'll protect you from retaliation. It took another hour of gentle persuasion, but Sarah eventually agreed to meet with an employment attorney. Noah knew a good one from his Army days. Jake Henderson had helped several fellow veterans with disability claims and had a reputation for taking on powerful people. I'll call Jake tomorrow, Noah told Sarah as they prepared to part ways. He's tough and he doesn't intimidate easily. Why are you helping me? Sarah asked. You don't even know me. Noah looked at this young woman who'd been victimized by the same man who was destroying his marriage and felt something shift in his chest. Maybe it was paternal instinct. She was close to Jonah's age. Maybe it was simple decency. Because someone should have helped you a long time ago, he said. The dominoes started falling faster after that. Jake Henderson took Sarah's case immediately, recognizing the potential for both criminal charges and a substantial civil settlement. He also had contacts at the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, who specialized in workplace crimes. Meanwhile, the anonymous tips about Victor's business violations were bearing fruit. The Department of Revenue showed up at Eastside Motors on a Thursday morning with a full audit team. Victor called in sick that day, leaving Kelly to deal with investigators who wanted to see employment records, tax filings, and business licenses that didn't exist. Noah watched the whole thing from his truck across the street, filming everything on his phone. Victor's absence during a tax audit would look suspicious to investigators, especially when combined with the other evidence building against him. Camille, meanwhile, remained oblivious to the storm gathering around her affair partner. She'd started working late again, now that her food poisoning had cleared up. She even hummed while getting dressed for her evening shifts, apparently convinced that Noah suspected nothing. You seem happy lately, Noah commented one evening, as she applied makeup in their bedroom mirror. Just glad to be feeling better. That conference really knocked me out, she smiled at him in the mirror. I'm picking up extra shifts to make up for the time I missed. That's thoughtful of you. Well, someone has to be the responsible one in this family. The casual cruelty of the comment hit Noah like a slap. Here was his wife, preparing to meet her lover, criticizing his responsibility while she systematically betrayed their marriage vows. You're right, he said evenly. Someone does. That night, after Camille left for her supposed shift, Noah called the hospital where she worked. Riverside General Nursing Station. Hi, this is Noah Blaine. My wife Camille is working late tonight and forgot her insulin at home. Can you tell me which unit she's on so I can bring it to her? Let me check. I don't see Camille Blaine on tonight's schedule. Are you sure she's working? She said she picked up an extra shift. Maybe it's not in the system yet? Hold on. Noah heard keyboard clicking. No, she's not scheduled for any shifts this week. Her next regular shift is Saturday morning. Okay, thank you. I must have misunderstood. Noah hung up and immediately called Hannah. She's at it again, he said when she answered. Victor, too. He left here an hour ago, said he had to check on a car repair emergency. Hannah's voice was bitter. Want to go see what kind of emergency requires a motel room? They met at a gas station near the Riverside Inn, the same motel where Noah had planted his camera. This time, instead of hiding, they walked into the lobby together. We're looking for our spouses, Hannah told the desk clerk, a tired-looking man in his 60s. Victor Letts and Camille Blaine. They said they were staying here tonight for work, but we think there might be an emergency. The clerk checked his computer. Room 314. You want me to call up there? No, we'll surprise them, Noah said. They climbed the exterior stairs to the third floor, Noah carrying a tire iron from his truck. Not to use as a weapon, he wasn't planning violence, but because the sight of it would send a clear message. Room 314's door was thin and cheap. They could hear voices inside, though not clearly enough to make out words. Noah knocked loudly. Maintenance, he called. Need to check your air conditioning unit. The voices stopped. Footsteps approached the door. Oh, we didn't call for maintenance, Victor's voice said through the door. Required monthly inspection. Won't take long. More whispered conversation, then the sound of the chain being removed. The door opened 6 inches, revealing Victor's face, shirtless and suspicious. Look, this isn't a good time. Noah pushed the door open hard, sending Victor stumbling backward. He and Hannah walked into the room like they owned it. Camille sat on the bed wearing only a hotel bathrobe, her face going white when she saw her husband. Noah, what are you doing here? Checking on my wife's work emergency, Noah said calmly. He looked around the room, taking in the scattered clothes, the unmade bed, the champagne bottle on the nightstand. Funny, this doesn't look like the hospital. You can't just barge in here. Victor stepped forward, trying to look threatening despite wearing only boxer shorts. This is private property. So is my marriage, Noah replied. He hefted the tire iron slightly, not making any threatening moves, but letting its weight be visible. But that didn't stop you from trespassing. Noah, please, Camille started to say. Shut up! The words came out flat and cold, cutting through her attempted explanation. Just shut up! Hannah moved to the window and pulled back the curtain. Nice view of the parking lot, very romantic. Hannah, I can explain, Victor began. No need. I've heard enough explanations to last a lifetime. She turned to face her husband. I know about Kelly. I know about Sarah Martinez. I know about all of them. Victor's face went through several expressions: confusion, fear, and finally a kind of desperate anger. You've been spying on me? I've been protecting myself from you. Look, Victor said, his voice taking on a wheedling tone. This isn't what it looks like. Camille and I were just friends. We were just talking. Noah gestured at the champagne, the discarded clothes, the rumpled bedsheets. Must have been a very interesting conversation. Noah, I'm sorry, Camille said, tears starting to flow. I never meant for this to happen. It just did. No, it didn't just happen. You planned it. You lied to me. You lied to our son. You used our money to pay for hotel rooms so you could screw this piece of garbage. Noah's voice remained calm, but something in his eyes made both Victor and Camille shrink back. You made choices, Camille. Now you get to live with the consequences. What do you want? Victor asked. Money? I can pay you to keep quiet about this. Noah almost smiled. You think this is about money? Everything's about money. No, Victor. This is about respect. This is about you thinking you could take something that belonged to me and face no consequences. Noah stepped closer, close enough that Victor could smell his aftershave. This is about you being wrong. Noah, please, Camille said again. Can't we work this out? Can't we go to counseling or something? The time for working things out passed when you started working Victor, Noah replied. We're way past counseling now. Hannah had been quiet during this exchange, but now she spoke up. Victor, I want you out of our house by tomorrow night. Take your clothes and your tools and whatever else you need, but everything else stays. You can't kick me out of my own house. Actually, I can. The house is in my name. I inherited it from my father, remember? You never bothered to get your name added to the deed. Hannah smiled coldly. That was careless of you. The business that's being audited by the IRS, the one operating without a license, the one where you've been sexually maltreating employees? Hannah shook her head. I don't think that business is going to exist much longer. Victor looked between his wife and Noah, finally understanding that this wasn't a spontaneous confrontation. You two planned this? We've been comparing notes, Noah confirmed. Amazing what you can learn when you start asking the right questions. Sarah Martinez sends her regards, by the way, Hannah added. She's very excited to tell her story in court. The fight went out of Victor all at once. He sat heavily on the bed, his shoulders slumping. How long have you known? Long enough, Noah said. Long enough to document everything. They left Victor and Camille in the motel room, two middle-aged adulterers contemplating the wreckage of their lives. Noah felt strangely peaceful as he and Hannah walked to their cars. That was satisfying, Hannah said. That was just the appetizer, Noah replied. The main course is still coming. Over the next 2 weeks, the carefully constructed lives of Victor Letts and Camille Blaine crumbled like houses built on sand. Victor's business collapsed first. The IRS audit revealed years of tax evasion, unlicensed operation, and fraudulent business expenses. When the authorities discovered his pattern of sexually maltreating young employees, criminal charges followed. Sarah Martinez's lawyer had connected with 3 other former employees, all with similar stories of coercion and maltreatment. The local news picked up the story. Malden Auto Shop owner faces multiple charges ran on the evening news, complete with footage of Victor being led away in handcuffs. Noah watched it from his living room recliner while Camille cowered upstairs, afraid to show her face in public. Camille's downfall was more subtle but equally devastating. Noah had spent weeks documenting her lies, her absences, her use of their joint accounts to fund her affair. When he presented this evidence to a divorce attorney, the lawyer's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Infidelity, financial deception, abandonment of parental duties, the attorney said, reviewing Noah's documentation. Massachusetts may be a no-fault divorce state, but this level of misconduct affects asset division and custody arrangements. What does that mean? It means you're going to get almost everything, and she's going to get what she deserves. The divorce papers were served at the hospital where Camille worked, in front of her colleagues and supervisors. Noah had timed it perfectly, right at shift change when the maximum number of people would witness her humiliation. Camille came home that evening in tears, clutching the legal documents like they were a capital punishment. "Noah, please," she begged, finding him in the garage where he'd been working on his old Chevelle. "We can fix this. We can go to therapy, start over, whatever you want." Noah didn't look up from the engine he was rebuilding. "What I want is for you to move out by Friday. This is my house too. Read the paperwork. I'm claiming the house as part of my settlement, along with compensation for the money you stole from our joint accounts." He finally looked at her, and she stepped back from the coldness in his eyes. "You can stay with your sister. I'm sure she has room in her basement. What about Jonah? He's my son." Jonah is 15 years old. According to Massachusetts law, he gets a say in custody arrangements. Want to guess who he chooses to live with? The parent who's been lying to him for months? Or the one who's been taking care of him while you were screwing around? Camille tried tears, then anger, then desperate bargaining. None of it moved Noah. He'd already made his decision and put the wheels in motion. The only question now was how much damage she would do to herself trying to fight the inevitable. The answer came 3 days later at Jonah's school. Noah was at work when his phone rang. The caller ID showed Malden High School. "Mr. Blaine, this is Principal Walsh. I'm afraid there's been an incident involving your wife and your son." "What kind of incident?" "Mrs. Blaine came to the school this morning, apparently intoxicated, demanding to see Jonah. When we explained that she needed to go through proper channels, she became verbally abusive and had to be escorted off the property by security." Noah closed his eyes. "Is Jonah okay?" "He's fine, but he's quite upset. The entire confrontation happened in front of his classmates." Principal Walsh paused. "Mr. Blaine, I have to ask, is there anything going on at home that we should know about?" "My wife and I are getting divorced. She's not handling it well." "I see. Well, Jonah is in the counselor's office right now. You might want to come pick him up." Noah found his son sitting in the guidance counselor's office, staring at his hands. Jonah looked up when his father entered, and Noah saw something in his eyes that made his chest tight. A kind of adult sadness that no 15-year-old should have to carry. "Hey, buddy," Noah said, sitting in the chair next to his son. "You okay?" "She was drunk, Dad." "At 10 in the morning, she was drunk?" Jonah's voice was quiet but steady. "Everyone saw. My friends, my teachers, everyone. I'm sorry. Is it true? Are you getting divorced?" Noah had planned to break this news more gently, maybe over dinner at home. But Camille had taken that choice away from him, just like she'd taken so many other choices. "Yeah, we are." "Because of what she did? The cheating?" Noah studied his son's face. "You knew?" "I'm not stupid, Dad. She's been acting weird for months. Always on her phone, always going out, always lying about where she'd been." Jonah met his father's eyes. "I just didn't know what to do about it." "It's not your job to do anything about it. That's between your mother and me." "But now, everyone at school knows our family is messed up." "Our family isn't messed up. Your mother made some bad choices, but that doesn't reflect on you or me." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jonah asked the question Noah had been dreading. "Where am I going to live?" "Where do you want to live?" "With you." "Is that okay?" Relief flooded through Noah's chest. More than okay. They drove home together, Jonah quiet but not withdrawn. When they pulled into the driveway, Camille's Civic was gone. Good. Noah wasn't ready for another confrontation, especially not in front of his son. Inside, the house felt different, lighter somehow, as if Camille's presence had been a weight Noah hadn't realized he was carrying. He made grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch while Jonah sat at the kitchen counter doing homework. "Dad?" Jonah said without looking up from his math problems. "Yeah? I'm glad you're fighting back." Noah paused, spatula halfway to flipping a sandwich. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm glad you're not just taking it. What she did to you, to us. Some dads would just roll over and let it happen. Is that what you thought I would do?" Jonah finally looked up. "I wasn't sure. You're usually so calm about everything. I thought maybe you'd try to forgive her or something." "Some things can't be forgiven, buddy. Some things shouldn't be forgiven. Good. That afternoon, while Jonah was at soccer practice, Noah got a call from Jake Henderson. The Sarah Martinez case is moving fast, the lawyer said. Victor Letts just fired his attorney and wants to negotiate a settlement. What does that mean? It means he knows he's screwed and wants to cut his losses. Sarah's looking at a substantial payout, plus the criminal charges are still pending. How substantial? 6 figures, probably. Maybe more if we can prove a pattern of maltreatment with other employees. Noah thought about the 19-year-old girl who'd been victimized by Victor, forced to choose between her job and her dignity. The settlement wouldn't undo what happened to her, but it might help her move forward. What about the business? Finished. The IRS is seizing assets to cover back taxes, and the state pulled his licenses permanently. Eastside Motors is done. After hanging up, Noah drove to the auto shop that had been Victor's life's work. The parking lot was empty except for a few abandoned cars, their hoods up like mechanical corpses. A large sign on the front door read, "Closed by order of Massachusetts Department of Revenue." Noah sat in his truck for several minutes, looking at the dead business and feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Victor had built his entire identity around being a successful mechanic, a guy who could fix anything. Now he couldn't even fix his own life. That evening, Camille came home to collect more of her belongings. She moved through the house like a ghost, packing clothes and personal items into cardboard boxes. Noah watched from the kitchen doorway as she took pictures from their bedroom dresser. Photos of their wedding, family vacations, Jonah's school portraits. "You can keep those," he said. She looked up, surprised. "Really? I don't need pictures to remember what we used to have, and I don't want pictures to remember what you destroyed." Camille's face crumpled. "Noah, please. I know I screwed up, but we had 17 good years. Doesn't that count for anything? 17 years that you were willing to throw away for 6 months with a sleazy mechanic. So no, apparently it doesn't count for anything." I was confused. I was going through something. You were going through Victor Letts. Let's call it what it was. She flinched as if he'd slapped her. "Why are you being so cruel?" Cruel would be letting you keep pretending this was some kind of accident. Cruel would be letting you rewrite history to make yourself feel better. Noah stepped into the room and she backed away involuntarily. "You want to know what cruel looks like? Cruel is lying to your husband for 6 months. Cruel is using his money to pay for hotel rooms where you can screw another man. Cruel is coming home and kissing him goodnight with another man's taste still in your mouth. Stop. Cruel is destroying your son's sense of security because you were bored with your stable life. Cruel is showing up drunk at his school and humiliating him in front of his friends." I said stop. "I'm just getting started." Camille grabbed her boxes and fled toward the front door. Noah followed at a distance, not pursuing, but making sure she left. "This isn't over," she said from the doorway. "Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet." She started to say something else, then seemed to think better of it. The door slammed behind her, and Noah was alone in the house that was finally his again. 2 weeks later, Noah got the call he'd been waiting for. "We have a problem," Hannah said, her voice tight with stress. "What kind of problem?" "Victor's been arrested. Not just the business stuff. They're charging him with sexual attack." Noah felt ice in his veins. "Sarah? And 2 other girls. Apparently, once the story went public, more sufferers came forward." Hannah's voice was shaking. "Noah, they want to question me about what I knew and when I knew it." This was the moment Noah had been dreading. Their campaign against Victor had been carefully planned, but they'd always known there was a risk of blowback. If prosecutors thought Hannah had helped cover up criminal behavior, she could face charges herself. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That I suspected Victor was cheating but didn't know about the attack allegations until recently." "That is the truth." "I know, but what if they don't believe me? What if they think I was part of some conspiracy to destroy evidence or intimidate witnesses?" Noah understood her fear. They had conspired, not to cover up Victor's crimes, but to expose them. The distinction might be lost on prosecutors looking for someone to blame. "Did you mention our meetings? The planning we did?" "Not yet. They're bringing me back for more questions tomorrow." Noah made a decision that surprised him with its clarity. "Tell them everything." "What?" "Tell them about the private investigator, the financial records, the meetings we had. Tell them we were gathering evidence of infidelity for divorce proceedings and discovered criminal behavior in the process." "Noah, that could implicate you too." "Let it. I'm not ashamed of what we did. We helped 3 young women get justice against a carnivore. If the system wants to punish us for that, let them try." The investigation took another month, but in the end, prosecutors concluded that Noah and Hannah had acted within the law. Their evidence gathering was aggressive, but not illegal, and their cooperation with Sarah Martinez's lawyer had actually helped the criminal case against Victor. Victor himself was sentenced to 4 years in prison for sexual attack, and another 2 for tax evasion. His conviction made the front page of the Malden Observer, complete with a photo of him in handcuffs being led into the courthouse. Camille's fall was less dramatic, but equally complete. The divorce settlement gave Noah the house, most of their joint assets, and primary custody of Jonah. Camille was left with her car, her personal belongings, and a court order to seek treatment for booze misuse. She moved in with her sister in Quincy, taking a part-time nursing job at a rehabilitation center. The hospital where she'd worked for 12 years had quietly encouraged her to resign after the public nature of her divorce made her a liability. 6 months after the motel confrontation, Noah stood in his garage putting the finishing touches on his restored 1969 Chevelle. The car gleamed under the fluorescent lights, its engine purring with the smooth power of a machine built right the first time. Jonah wandered in as Noah was wiping down the chrome, admiring his father's work. "She's beautiful, Dad." "Thanks. Want to take her for a drive?" "Are you serious?" Noah tossed his son the keys. "You've got your permit. Time to learn on something with real character." They drove through Malden's quiet streets, Jonah handling the powerful car with the careful respect it deserved. The November air was crisp through the open windows, carrying the smell of fallen leaves and wood smoke from suburban fireplaces. "Dad," Jonah said as they cruised down Main Street. "Yeah? Are you happy now?" "I mean, really happy." Noah considered the question seriously. He'd spent 8 months systematically destroying 2 people who had betrayed him. He'd watched his marriage die, seen his wife's life crumble, witnessed the complete collapse of his former friend Victor's existence. Was he happy? "I'm satisfied," he said finally. "There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Happy is what you feel when good things happen to you. Satisfied is what you feel when justice happens to people who deserve it." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, father and son sharing a moment of peace in a world that had recently been turned upside down. As they headed home, Noah thought about the choices that had led them here. Camille had chosen to betray their marriage for momentary pleasure. Victor had chosen to misuse his power and hurt vulnerable women. They had both chosen to believe that their actions would have no consequences. Noah had chosen differently. He had chosen patience over anger, planning over impulse, justice over forgiveness. And now he was driving through his hometown in a restored muscle car with his son beside him, while his enemies served time in prison or lived in their sister's basement, broken and forgotten. Some might call it revenge. Noah preferred to think of it as education, a lesson in cause and effect, delivered with the precision of a man who understood that some debts can only be paid in full. 3 weeks later, Noah was locking up the hardware store after a busy Saturday when he saw a familiar figure across the street. Camille stood beside a beat-up Honda Civic, watching him through the storefront window. She looked older, thinner, with the gray complexion of someone who'd been drinking too much and sleeping too little. He pretended not to see her and walked to his truck. But as he pulled out of the parking space, she stepped into the street, forcing him to stop. "Noah!" Her voice was hoarse, desperate. "Please, just 5 minutes." Against his better judgment, he rolled down the window. "What do you want, Camille?" "I want to explain. I want to apologize. I want—" She struggled for words. "I want my life back." "Your life back? You threw your life away. I just cleaned up the mess." "I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes? Camille, you systematically betrayed everything we built together. You used our money to fund an affair, lied to our son, and humiliated our family in public." Noah's voice remained calm, but his words cut like surgical instruments. "Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. I was unhappy. I felt trapped, like my life was over at 36. So you decided to make sure mine was over too?" Tears ran down her cheeks, but Noah felt nothing. The woman crying in front of his truck was a stranger who happened to look like his ex-wife. "The house you're living in, the car you're driving, the job you have. I could have taken all of that away," he continued. "I could have made sure you ended up with nothing. Instead, I let you keep your nursing license and enough money to start over. That was more mercy than you deserved." "Mercy? You destroyed Victor. You destroyed my career. You turned our son against me." "I didn't turn Jonah against you. You did that yourself when you showed up drunk at his school." Noah put the truck in gear. "Victor destroyed himself by being a carnivore. Your career was destroyed by your own choices. I just made sure everyone knew what kind of people you really were. I'm still Jonah's mother. Biologically, yes. But you stopped being his mother the day you decided that screwing Victor Letts was more important than being a parent. Camille stepped back from the truck, her face twisted with rage and grief. You're a monster, Noah. A cold, calculating monster. Maybe I am, but I'm a monster who kept his marriage vows, supported his family, and protected his son. What does that make you? He drove away without waiting for an answer, leaving Camille standing alone in the empty street. In his rearview mirror, he watched her collapse against her car, sobbing into her hands. Noah felt nothing. 6 months passed. Jonah thrived in his new life. His grades improved, he made varsity soccer, and the dark circles under his eyes disappeared. He saw his mother every other weekend, as mandated by the custody agreement, but always came home relieved to be back in his stable environment. Hannah Letts had moved to Vermont with her share of Victor's settlement money, buying a small farm where she raised horses and slowly rebuilt her life. She sent Noah Christmas cards with pictures of mountain views and notes about her peaceful new existence. Victor served his time quietly, avoiding the kind of prison violence that typically befell men convicted of sexual attack. Word filtered back through mutual acquaintances that he spent his days in the prison library, reading books about business and planning his rehabilitation. Noah hoped the books included chapters on accepting responsibility and making amends, but he doubted it. Men like Victor rarely learned from their mistakes. They just got better at hiding them. Spring returned to Malden, bringing the annual ritual of home repair and hardware store busyness. Noah threw himself into his work with renewed energy, helping customers with their projects and training his replacement as store manager, because he was leaving. The severance package from Malden Hardware was generous. 15 years of steady service had earned him a substantial payout, plus full benefits for 6 months. Combined with his divorce settlement and the money he'd saved by living simply, Noah had enough to start fresh anywhere he wanted. He'd chosen Montana, big sky country, where a man could disappear into the landscape and rebuild himself from scratch. He'd already put a deposit on a small ranch outside Bozeman, complete with a workshop where he could restore cars and maybe start a small business. Jonah would finish his junior year at Malden High, spend the summer visiting colleges, then join his father for senior year at a school where nobody knew their history. A clean slate for both of them. The plan was perfect except for one detail that nagged at Noah's conscience. Despite everything Camille had done, despite the complete destruction of their marriage and the pain she'd caused their son, she was still Jonah's mother. Moving to Montana would effectively end any relationship between them. You sure about this? Jonah asked one evening as they packed boxes in the garage. Mom's going to freak out when she finds out we're leaving Massachusetts. Your mother forfeited her right to input on major decisions when she decided to prioritize her affair over her family, Noah replied, wrapping tools in newspaper. Besides, you'll be 18 in a year and a half. You can have whatever relationship you want with her then. What if she tries to stop us legally? She can try, but the custody agreement allows me to relocate for employment purposes, and I've already got a job lined up at a ranch supply store in Bozeman. You really thought of everything, didn't you? Noah looked at his son, tall now, broader in the shoulders, with a man's voice and a mature way of carrying himself. Jonah had aged years in the past 12 months, forced to grow up fast by circumstances beyond his control. I tried to think of everything. Your mother caught me off guard once. I won't let that happen again. The night before they left Massachusetts, Noah drove to the lighthouse where he and Camille had gotten engaged 18 years earlier. It was a cold April evening with fog rolling in from the Atlantic and obscuring the horizon. He sat on the rocks where he'd once promised to love and honor a woman who would eventually betray every vow they'd made to each other. The lighthouse beam swept across the water in steady intervals, offering guidance to ships that might lose their way in the darkness. Noah thought about the man he'd been when he proposed to Camille. Younger, more trusting, believing that love and commitment were enough to build a life on. That man had been naive but not wrong. Love and commitment were enough when both people honored them. His phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number, but he recognized the area code. Massachusetts. I know you're leaving. I know I can't stop you. Just tell Jonah I love him. Noah stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Some bridges were meant to be burned completely. The next morning, he and Jonah loaded the last of their belongings into a U-Haul trailer hitched behind the Chevelle. Their new life waited 2,500 miles away. in a place where nobody knew about affairs or revenge or the systematic destruction of two people who had forgotten that actions have consequences. As they pulled out of the driveway for the last time, Noah glanced in his rearview mirror at the house where he'd lived for 17 years. No nostalgia, no regret, no second thoughts, just the satisfaction of a man who had faced betrayal and emerged victorious. "You ready for this, Dad?" Jonah asked as they turned onto Route 93 West. "I've been ready for months." They drove in comfortable silence through the Massachusetts countryside, father and son heading toward a future that belonged entirely to them. Behind them, the wreckage of old lives smoldered in the morning sun. Ahead, the open road stretched toward mountains and sky and the kind of second chances that men like Noah Blaine had to take by force. In the passenger seat, Jonah dozed as the miles rolled by. Noah gripped the steering wheel and felt something he hadn't experienced in over a year. Peace. Not happiness. That might come later, when the wounds had fully healed and the anger had cooled to manageable levels. But peace was enough for now. Peace was the reward for men who fought their battles strategically, who planned their moves carefully, who understood that justice delayed was not justice denied. The Chevelle's engine purred with smooth power as they crossed the state line into New York. Noah pressed the accelerator slightly, eager to put distance between himself and the past. In the rearview mirror, Massachusetts disappeared into memory, taking with it the ghosts of betrayal and the bitter satisfaction of revenge perfectly served. Somewhere behind them, Camille Blaine was waking up to discover that her son and ex-husband had vanished overnight, leaving no forwarding address and no way to contact them. She would call the police, hire lawyers, maybe even drive to Montana to search for them herself. Noah almost hoped she would. It would give him one more opportunity to demonstrate that some consequences are permanent, that some choices cannot be undone, and that some men are dangerous precisely because they look so harmless. The mountains rose ahead of them like promises of redemption. Noah Blaine drove toward them steadily, carrying his son toward a future built on the ashes of his enemy's ambitions. Behind them, the lighthouse beam continued its eternal sweep across empty waters, warning ships away from the rocks where careless navigators met their doom. The end.